Hey there. Got the kitchen clean today, decided I would make a video to show you something that I do to save some money in the kitchen. People who know me know that I eat a ton of beef and prices are going crazy, so this is something that I do to save myself a little bit of money. What you see before you is a 22-pound beef rib roast, bone in. You'll also see this called prime rib roast or a standing rib roast. And this is exactly the way that it comes to the grocery store in this cryovac package. Usually they will sell this to you for a couple bucks off the normal price just so they don't have to do any work with it. But around the holidays, Christmas, Easter, Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and Thanksgiving, you know, the holidays that you generally think of buying a ton of meat to grill or to roast, the prices will come down to, this one was $5.77 a pound. Normally a ribeye steak is going to cost you, I don't know, around here, anywhere from $16.99 to $20.99 a pound. So $5.77 a pound is a huge discount. I routinely see this like the week before the holiday, and I do this a couple times a year, where I'll buy one of these, cut it into steaks, and then I'm good on steaks until the next one rolls around. Sometimes even two. So what do you need? Well, you need a beef ribeye roast. It's going to be, you're going to find them anywhere from probably 17 pounds up to 26 pounds is probably the biggest I've ever seen. I'm sure that's not the biggest they get. But so you need that. You need a gigantic cutting board. I got this on Amazon. It was relatively cheap, definitely under 40 bucks. If you don't have that, you can get a bunch of these super cheap cutting sheets and just kind of tile them out overlapping on your counter. Or if you have a nice solid surface countertop, you could just really clean it up nice. A lot of the work we're going to do is not going to be pressing down to the surface. So, you know, when you get to that point, you are going to need a cutting board of some kind, but a lot of this can be done just on a nice clean surface. You need a vacuum sealer. This is just a cheap entry-level food saver. I have a nice automatic one, but the cheaper one works better because you can trigger it manually. So sometimes, particularly with the dry aging bags that I use, you can't trigger the automatic machine to function. So that makes that easier. You need food saver bags. You can buy rolls and rolls of this stuff, super cheap. You need a pair of ordinary scissors for cutting these. You need a pair of kitchen shears, clean of course, and a nice sharp knife. In terms of knives, you probably know whether your knives are sharp or not. If you don't have a knife that you are confident is sharp enough, you can go to Walmart, pick up one of these bad boys. This is a Chicago Cutlery 9-inch slicing knife. It's not a good knife, but it costs $20, and on the day you buy it, I promise you it will be sharp. You need a place to put your meat when it's done, and when you're no longer working with that piece, you can put it over here. And then I have rubber gloves. I don't always use rubber gloves, but I usually am like washing my hands like crazy. So rather than do that, make you watch me fumble through washing my hands 500 times, I'm just going to swap gloves, make it a little bit easier. So you start with your kitchen shears, get into your bag here. This is a messy process, no way around it. Cut right there. Cut all the way across the front of it here. Try not to cut the meat, but it doesn't really matter. Be sure to watch the funny looks on my face. Okay, so I'm gonna peel that back, and I'm just gonna grab my roast. And bring it over to the cutting board. Let me get that out of your way so you don't have to look at that disgustingness. All right, so done with the kitchen shears. Next step is you need to remove the bone. So I like to stand it up on end like this, get my knife, and you can see the bones are right here and they curve down this way. And you're just going to start at the top of the bone and follow the line of the bone to make that first cut. Just like that. And then you're going to want to make a second or third cut to get some depth to that cut. Make sure you're keeping your holding hand out of the line of the blade. Once you get in there a little ways, you'll be able to kind of pull and separate the bones a little bit. Okay. Then you can get in there and keep working, pulling the meat away from the bone, cutting along the surface of the bone. Pull it apart a little more. And again. And again. Probably one more good cut. We'll make that 2 good cuts. Well, no, it's going pretty good. Now you can see that the bone's mostly off. Just need to make a cut. Separate them. You can see I'm not a professional at this. Alright, so I've got my slab of ribs. This is 7 bones, a whole roast of 7 bones. I like to divide it into 2 so that I have, let me see, how can I do this? So I have a couple good meals out of it. So I'll take the 3 biggest bones, you can see it tapers down. Take the 3 biggest bones and cut right between that 3rd bone and the 4th bone. And it's going to take the right angle to get through this last little part. There we go. All right. So, 3 and 4. Put those over here. And now we're ready for the next part. So, I like my steaks nice and even in thickness. A lot of times you'll find that the end of the roast is kind of rounded. And so I will make a cut, mostly parallel, but just to take some of that roundness off the end. And then this, you know, it's kind of misshapen, it's a little bit awkward to work with. You could maybe make a steak out of that. I use it for things like stews or stir fries or whatever. And then you do just the very same to the other side. Cutting maybe 1/2 inch to 1 inch off. Okay, set those aside. Now, you've got sort of the main chunk of meat here. I will, sometimes I'll take and dry age this. I'll make another video on how to do that. Once you get to this point, you can either put it into a dry aging bag or you can cut it into individual steaks. Now, of course, you can make 2-inch steaks, whatever thickness you want. I usually do about 1 inch. So I'm going to mark it first. 1 inch, 2, and 14 cuts, so 15 steaks we're going to get out of this. And then I'm going to just cut along that very same line, as straight as I can, to make my first steak. So normally I would just go sequentially like this, but I want to show you a little bit about the anatomy of the ribeye. A lot of people might prefer something other than a ribeye. To those of you, I say you're wrong, and here's why. So the ribeye, you can see this is the anterior end of the ribeye. This is the posterior end of the ribeye. You get bigger steaks toward the posterior end. For the ribeye, you've got the eye. This is, I believe, the longissimus dorsi muscle. This is a pretty ordinary, it's good, but it's not the best part of the ribeye. This outer ring here is called the cap. That's the spinalis dorsi muscle. That is the most tender, flavorful part of your entire cow. It will beat your filet mignon hands down in every respect. And then this tail piece, I don't know what that muscle is called, but it's mostly fat. It's also quite tender, but it's mostly fat. So I'm actually going to cut a lot of that off so that I can render fat later. On the anterior end, if we give you a little side by side, you can see that eye piece is much, much smaller. And the cap is this entire huge chunk of meat. So cutting from the anterior is going to give you a much better steak. And like if you're going to Texas Roadhouse or whatever, where you can pick your own steak out of a case, I sincerely recommend that you choose one of these ones. It's ugly. I think people avoid these because they don't look like a ribeye, but really like 40% of that is the cap, which you're really gonna love. So toss those aside. I'm probably gonna cut out the part, or maybe fast forward the part where I actually cut these. So I'm gonna quit talking and start cutting. All right, so all done cutting steaks. Like I said, we got 15 steaks out of this. The entire thing cost 130 bucks. So you're talking less than 10 bucks a steak, plus you got a couple of ribs and you got the end pieces to do something fun with. Next thing we're gonna do is vacuum seal it. So I'm going to first put the end into the vacuum sealer. Seal it, just takes a second. Alright, and then I'm going to cut. There are marks on the edge of these bags if you buy this Food Saver brand ones. I don't know what happens with other brands, I never bought them. But I count 2.5 marks, that's where I cut. That's usually big enough for one ribeye steak. Actually, oftentimes it's way too big. But one glove on for the touching of meat. Get this bag open, and we'll take our first steak and just pop it in there. Then, put this out of my way. Lay it with the rough side down. Touch it like this. Vacuum seal it. There we go. First one done. That'll keep in your freezer for pretty much as long as you like. But I forgot to say, you need a Sharpie. Write on here what day you bought it, or what day you stored it, or whatever marker you want to use for how long it's been in there. If you start really doing this like I do, you might have multiple batches in there and you want to do it first in, first out to make sure you're getting the freshest thing possible. Not going to make you suffer through watching me do this 16 times. So that's the end of the video. Hope you find it helpful. Thanks.